All across the fantasy universe, welcome one and all to the 2 Point Stance, powered by fantasypoints.com. I'm your host, Brian Drake. What a great show we've got for you today, folks. We're, of course, going to dig into the big Stefon Diggs to Houston trade with our betting lead over at fantasypoints.com, Mr. Tom Brawley. Joe Dolan will be along with me momentarily, but I got to start things, folks, with the biggest thing we're doing at the site right now, and it's the prospect guide. Brett Whitefield has rolled this out. It is live, and it is free at fantasypoints.com. Our draft guru, Mr. Whitefield, spent hundreds and hundreds of hours cultivating this rookie manifesto to help you guys, our listeners, be the most prepared when it comes to your rookie drafts, your prep for next fantasy redraft season. It's all there. It's all live again. It's all free. It includes profiles on every position, Brett's big board, 2024 rookie rankings, and a link to Brett's On the Clock draft series podcast, which is a home run. I've listened to several of those. Again, folks, 100% free. Access it right now. Go over to fantasypoints.com. Check it out. You'll sure be glad you did. Let's bring in the managing editor of fantasypoints.com. He edited the damn guide, Mr. Joe Dolan. What's up, brother? How you been?
Every single prospect that Brett's done so far, and what we have up so far is basically we are a fantasy football website. So Brett's focus so far has been on the skill position players. He still has a few to go, but then he's going to get into the offensive linemen, defensive linemen. So he scouted them. He's had his notes. He just has to write up the profiles, but it's a living, breathing document that I hope everybody enjoys. Drake, it's been a while. I think since we last talked, I think both of us have made an excursion to Disney World. Yours was with your family. I went with my my wife when she was at a conference. It was. Let me tell you something, man. You better be prepared to have a lighter wallet after you go there. Oh man, it was. And we just went for one day, and it was like super expensive. Then I went to the Arnold Palmer Invitational, but it's been good. Let's talk. Look, I was trying to lay down for a nap yesterday. I wasn't feeling great, and the NFL always has a way of just kind of preventing you from doing things when the NFL is your job. And we got the big news about Mr. Diggs, who just a few hours before, I guess, the trade was chirping again on Twitter, about how, Josh Allen, not like it wasn't him saying this. It was, I guess, responding to somebody on Twitter. Well, I don't know if Josh needs Stefon as much as Stefon needs Josh or something. And then Diggs responds, "We'll see." And now we will see, Mr. Drake.
Yeah, Stefon Diggs traded to the Houston Texans. Buffalo sends Diggs down south along with a 2024 sixth and a 25 fifth rounder. They collect a second rounder back to Buffalo in 2025. They're going to eat $31 million in dead money, the sixth largest dead cap hit ever, the largest for a non-quarterback. So we talked about the product guide. Let's bring in our guest, Mr. Tom Brawley. I think Buffalo, Tom, might be in the market for a wide receiver after this. We'll dig into each side of it. But, Tom, your initial reaction to Buffalo shipping their ace wide receiver to an AFC competitor?
Yeah, that was kind of a little bit of the most surprising part. I mean, the Texans are an up-and-coming team. Obviously, they've been very active in free agency, bolstering the team that already went to the divisional round last year. So that just tells you just how much the Bills wanted Diggs out of town, and they were willing to send him to another AFC contender. Yeah, and I've just started to dig into the draft props. It looks like the Bills are essentially locked into drafting a receiver in the first round, or at least with their first pick. I believe they were sitting around like minus 120 to draft a wide receiver in the first round. Now they're sitting like in that minus 250 to minus 300 range. So basically like a 70-75% chance that they're going to draft a wide receiver. And I wouldn't be surprised if that rises even more. So a bit of a surprising move, but Texans, we've seen this recently. These quarterbacks on these rookie contracts, these teams are going all in while they have that quarterback on the cheap contract. And we've seen it on the opposite side recently here with Patrick Mahomes when they traded Tyreek Hill. These teams need to restructure, and they're kind of trusting their quarterbacks that have become established. Hey, we can, Josh Allen, now you got to do what Patrick Mahomes did. make these receivers, these lesser receivers, you got to lift everybody else up. So it's kind of funny how this cycle has really started to develop over the last couple of years. But these teams going all in on rookie, when they have a rookie quarterbacks, and maybe lightening the books whenever they have to start paying for these rookie quarterbacks in the future.
Joe, we now see that Stefon Diggs is in Houston. He's going to join Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And Joe Mixon, by the way, is down there as the new running back for the Houston Texans. So let's spin this forward to fantasy. Nico Collins had a higher ADP, or lower if you want to go that route, than Stefon Diggs did coming off the board. I mean, it's current early ADP, but Stefon Diggs was coming off the board at 22. Nico Collins was an early second rounder coming off at 15, which probably is too high for Nico
drop
Collins.
A little bit. Yeah.
So let's say all three of these guys are here in Houston. What's your early fantasy outlook for these guys?
The early fantasy outlook is I think this is going to be the common take. CJ Stroud up, all three of these receivers down. And I think the big question becomes, who is the real Stefon Diggs? Let's look at the evidence. The Buffalo Bills, as Tom alluded to, just paid $30 million to get rid of him. Okay. So now look, that might not just be on-field stuff. Maybe the on-field stuff is the smaller part of that equation, but they wanted him gone. And then Brett Whitefield dug into the numbers. 91 players ran at least 200 routes from week 8 onward last year. Stefon Diggs, of those 91 players, was 52nd in yards per route run and 52nd in first downs per route run, despite commanding a number 1 receiver target share. He was top 12 in target share. Before that, from weeks 1 through 7, he was 4th in yards per route run and 6th in first downs per route run. So there was a very evident and clear decline in Stefon Diggs' tape and Stefon Diggs' efficiency. That happened to coincide with the Buffalo Bills firing Ken Dorsey and hiring Joe Brady. So you have this. Look, and we all watched the playoffs, okay? We all watched Stefon Diggs drop that perfectly thrown ball against Kansas City that would have set up Buffalo to tie or go ahead in that playoff game. But I also saw him drop screen passes, drop quick slants. The play, you could see it with your own 2 eyes. You don't need to be a tape guru to see that Stefon Diggs' play dropped off. But the fact that it coincided with Joe Brady getting promoted, there was no real reported injury. It's really a tough onion to peel all the layers back here. And maybe he had checked out mentally, and maybe that's the one reason Buffalo wanted him gone. Nonetheless, there was a clear decline in production. He's an older player, and his team, on which, by the way, he was one of only 2 wide receivers on the roster who's even caught a pass from Josh Allen. The other being Khalil Shakir. Shakir's the only one now who has ever caught a pass from Josh Allen. The team paid $30 million to get rid of him. So this is a really hard breakdown for me. But on the other hand, Stefon Diggs doesn't need to be alpha Stefon Diggs, Minneapolis Miracle Stefon Diggs for this trade to work out for Houston, because Houston already has 2 other really good receivers. They have a reliable tight end in Dalton Schultz. They brought in Joe Mixon, who is going to continue to face light boxes just as he did in Cincinnati. The question I have is, if Stefon Diggs doesn't need to be an alpha, which he clearly does not in Houston, is he going to be okay with not being an alpha in Houston? Because he doesn't need to be, and I don't think he will be with the Texans.
Yeah, it's an interesting fit as well. I think it kind of is a great fit. You think about Tank Dell as kind of the vertical threat in this offense. Nico Collins is dominant in the middle of the field in that 10 to 20 yard range, and then Stefon Diggs can win. Put him out in the perimeter, win quickly, win in the short underneath areas. He's the route running technician now for CJ Stroud. So just a fantastic group of receivers for him. I'll say, even Joe, back to 2022, if you look back at his game logs then, it wasn't as precipitous as it was in 2023, but Diggs did not play as well in the second half of that season as well. So I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know if that's playing out in the cold in Buffalo. He gets to go down to Houston. He gets to play in a air-conditioned dome in Houston, playing in the AFC South. So not going to have to deal with weather factors. But it is interesting that, the last 2 years, we've seen drop offs in the second half of the year for Diggs.
Yeah.
So, who do we think? I still think Diggs will be the target share leader here, but I still think Nico Collins is the guy I want more than these other two.
I want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I want to see how ADPs shake out.
Yeah.
But here's what my view is going to be. I think it's going to be Collins, Diggs, Dell, ADP of the three. Remember, Ken Kell's coming off a serious injury. He's coming off a serious injury, so we have to factor that in. Collins, Diggs, Dell, ADP. I think my preference for fantasy, factoring in cost, will be Collins, Dell, Diggs.
Yeah, I think I might be Dell. I mean, we'll see how close they all are. I think we saw it last year. We saw Noah Brown step into the lineup. CJ Stroud does not discriminate. He's going to throw it to whoever's open. All three of these guys are going to be capable of going nuclear and having these huge weeks for best ball and for redraft leagues as well. So we'll see how it kind of shakes out. I still think Diggs will probably be the target share leader. Collins will probably be the overall fantasy points leader, but I think all three of these guys are going to really be bunched up, and we'll see how it shakes out in ADP. But I kind of have a feeling all three of these guys are going to be in that like 3rd round to 5th round range. It's going to be fascinating.
You know who I think might be the biggest beneficiary of all of this? And everyone's going to say, "Oh, it's CJ Stroud." No. It's Joe Mixon.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that. Yep.
Joe Mixon now comes onto a team who is going to have a lot of second half leads. We would assume, and we'll get into their win totals here in a few minutes. And they're going to be in the red zone a ton. You could see a lot of pass interferences in the end zone, putting the ball, down at the 1-2 yard line and having them run them in, closing out games. And there's going to be no team that's more overhyped for fantasy than the Houston Texans this year. So, is this changing your guys' opinion at all of where you might want to draft CJ Stroud, or is he going to be so overhyped? I think I heard today's, was he QB6? So I could pull up the current underdog ADP, see where he's going off the board. But
he's the QB6 right now.
You going to reach any higher for that on Stroud?
Let's see here.
I don't know if I can. He still just does not have that element of rushing. We haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
He only really did it in that Georgia game in the fantasy in the college football playoffs. Didn't really run last year. It's always going to cap, his upside. But I will say the one thing we were yelling at Bobby Slowick for a lot of last season, like, throw the ball more. You got a stud here. Why are we trying to establish the run with Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary? So I think at least this shows that they're going to lean heavily into CJ Stroud. Obviously, he's going to be throwing it a lot more. But I just, the rushing, there's just no upside with rushing. So I don't know if he cracks, that Lamar Jackson, that kind of tier there. But maybe he's drafted right there with Patrick Mahomes now.
So, couple things with Joe Mixon, by the way. Yeah, I think he's going to get past Anthony Richardson in ADP, Tom. I think that's fair. Joe Mixon, and this is basically ADP from yesterday, so not have any time at all to factor in the trade with Diggs. Joe Mixon, RB16. Well, I think this is notable. First and foremost, he wasn't going to see stacked boxes anyway in this Houston offense. He didn't in Cincinnati very often. Since 100 plus overall rushing attempts, this is from our guy Nick Spinola at @fball_insights on Twitter. Mixon was second worst in the NFL last year in explosive runs on heavy boxes against 8 or more. Only Tyler Algier was worse. Joe Mixon's not going to see 8-man boxes in this offense.
No.
He isn't like a huge success rate guy even against lighter boxes, but he's going to see a lot of light boxes in this offense. So Joe Mixon can be one of those guys. If you start your draft, let's say you draft 3 wide receivers, maybe a quarterback or a tight end, somebody you could start it with in the 4th or 5th round as your RB1 and say, I don't love it, but he's in a great offense, could have some touchdowns. I think Joe Mixon's going to be a beneficiary here for sure.
Yeah, a lot more scoring opportunities. Do they have a receiving back here? Dameon Pierce isn't that guy.
Dameon
JJ
Pierce
Taylor
is a trade candidate, man.
Yeah.
Like,
so they don't have anybody that's going to catch the ball either. So right now, Mixon RB60, he should be inside the top 12, in my opinion, even though he is a bit of a declining player. But all you have to do is look at, what they traded for him. They don't have anybody else in this backfield. He's going to get used. That's why they went out and got him. He's, been on the field. He's been able to stay healthy. And I think he's a little undervalued right now,
Yeah,
but
he's
I'm
going to
sure
play a lot of snaps.
Yes, he is.
You guys talk about running backs and being maybe a little undervalued. Let's spin this around to the Buffalo Bills and talk about James Cook. Weeks 1 through 10, he averaged 12 rushing attempts per game, 12 PPR points. Talk about that Joe Brady switched offensive coordinator weeks 11 through 18. Now he's averaging nearly 17 rushes a game. He's averaging over 16 fantasy points per game. Is James Cook now a guy that needs to be on our radar, move him up a round or so? Because let's face it, guys, they're going to have another rookie wide receiver on the outside. I doubt they trade for anyone of significance, but it's Dalton Kincaid, it's Curtis Samuel, it's Khalil Shakir, and it's James Cook. And James Cook is going to be, dare I say, a workhorse 3-down back in an offense that needs weapons. So, we can't overlook James Cook. We've got to focus in on him and say James Cook is a guy we should be targeting maybe in the first 3 rounds of a fantasy draft. What do you guys think?
I still, it's the touchdown capability. I mean, he just does not, Josh Allen takes a lot of those opportunities. Even I just like him to get more involved in the passing game, just a little bit more. It was pretty good last year, 44 catches for 445. But it all comes back to that touchdown upside. I just don't know if it's there with Josh Allen stealing so many touchdowns. He's going to be the QB1 again this year. I don't know if he can get pushed much higher. You have to score. If you're a running back, you have to score. We want backs that can catch the ball, but at the end of the day, we need our backs to score touchdowns, and he just does not do enough of that. I don't know if he can get pushed much higher than he really is right now.
Yeah, he's RB13. He's going in the 4th round, right behind the pick behind Rachaad White. I wouldn't be surprised if he moves past Rachaad White. I don't know if he's going to move past. I don't know if he's going to move past Derrick Henry, who's RB11. I think Derrick Henry's just in a perfect spot. ETN's RB10. So you already picked through these running backs, and you're like, oh, there's some warts there, man. Devon Achane is RB8. They just brought in Raheem Mostert, So now Cook, I think that you're gonna trust him to be a workhorse. This is gonna sound like a cop out here, Drake. We're gonna give some analysis, but this is gonna be dictated by the draft, man. What players are they gonna draft? I think they're drafting 2 receivers. I wonder if you could get a special prop bet on the Bills to draft receivers with their first 2 picks. What would the odds be on that? But Dalton Kincaid is probably the guy we can most analyze here. Heading into this trade, he was coming off the board 6th round, tight end 6, behind Kyle Pitts, who was tight end 5. He was a full round behind Mark Andrews. Does he move up above Mark Andrews into the Trey McBride tight end 3 kind of area? It's Laporta. In terms of ADP right now, it's Laporta, teardrop to Kelsey, mini teardrop to McBride, mini teardrop to Andrews. I think Kincaid probably moves into that tight end 3. I think there's an opportunity for him in the next week to move past Trey McBride to be the tight end 3. I'm not sure if that's prudent or not, but right now he's by far the most talented pass catcher on this team.
Yeah, and this receiving core, holy crap! What are we talked about it, that they have to draft a wide receiver, but I mean, we don't even have. Curtis Samuel was a 3 wide receiver set guy for the Commanders. Khalil Shakir,
he's the best receiver on this team. I know Matt Harmon was excited about that signing. So,
I like the signing, but he was a guy that when they were in 2 wide receiver sets last year wasn't even on the field. It was Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, and Khalil Shakir was the same way. This is a group that does not even have definitely not a true number 1 wide receiver, not even a true number 2 wide receiver right now. So I get the love for Dalton Kincaid here. That's why we love Mark Andrews so much in that Baltimore offense, because they haven't really had a number 1 wide receiver all these years, and he's been a major beneficiary of that. And Dalton Kincaid could see a very similar situation here with these, Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir as his top two, target, hogs right now. So, yeah, I'm with you. That's Kincaid has got to be at least in that top 4, and he's going to push Andrews for the tight end 3.
But the debate is this, right? Does Buffalo stay put and end up with like A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Legette or Ricky Pearsall, or throw in one of the 947 receivers in this draft? Or, Drake, does Buffalo trade up to get Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors? And I think that's part of the reason, like, as good as this receiver class is, there's 3 guys who are really considered kind of alphas, right? Neighbors, Odunze, and Marvin Harrison. Buffalo would have to make a massive jump to get those guys. I don't know if that's in the cards. They'd essentially have to move up 20 to 25 spots to get one of those guys. And if they've signaled that they're going to do a mini rebuild here, I don't know if that's going to happen. And then in that case, do you expect a Ricky Pearsall to come in and be your number 1 receiver as a rookie anyway? So I think you have to kind of play the odds here. And the odds, even though Buffalo is drafting 2 receivers at least, the odds say Dalton Kincaid's going to come into this season as their most accomplished pass catcher.
And remember, Buffalo lost both their top receivers now. Gabe Davis is out the door, and obviously Stefon Diggs. So we'll see. Buffalo's got some other issues there. They got to address maybe center. They lost both starting safeties, and Trey White is out the door. So a lot of new additions could be coming to Buffalo, and people are going.
Yeah,
do they have the
why it makes
capability to play 4 picks? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they have they have a ton of picks on day 3, but I don't know if they necessarily have the ammunition.
First 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if they have the kind of ammunition to get up into that top 10 to get one of those true number 1 wide receivers. I just don't see it happening. So I think they're just going to have to. It's going to be a little bit of a slow build here. They're going to try to piece it together at wide receiver.
And Josh Allen moved down, by the way. He's QB1, and he's QB1 by far. Like, his ADP is like 24. Jalen Hurts is QB2 at 36. So that's an entire round difference between those 2.
I think you're going to see him. He's going to have a Jalen Hurts type year. It's just going to be Josh Allen, put the Superman cape on, go out there and run your ass off. And
scores 12 rushing touchdowns. And
12, 15 rushing touchdowns for Josh Allen. Boy, oh boy.